Well, alright then. Mega Man and Mega Man X are a really important series to me. I've grown up with those games, and as long as I can remember, I would consider myself a fan of the series. I mostly grew up in the Mega Man Zero Battle Network era, but at that time, Mega Man was everywhere. The classic games had an anniversary collection very early on, and the Mega Man X collection came out around 2004 or 5. And at the time, that meant that I had basically access to every Mega Man game. While I do like the classic series, I've always been way more of a fan of the X games. And today is Mega Man X's 30th anniversary. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk about the original Mega Man X and the series as a whole.
もう一人のヒーロー、ロックマン X。スーパーファミコンで新登場。君はまだ X を知らない。Capcom.
The original Mega Man X came out on the Super Nintendo back in the 90s, and in my opinion, it's one of the best games ever made. Basically everything about this game works. The controls are nearly perfect, there's just enough challenge for a Mega Man game, and I just feel like it's very balanced compared to a lot of games in the series. And if you pay attention, it's also got a really cool story. I feel like X1 has been talked to death a little bit. I mean, everyone knows that Eco Raptor video, but I think it's hard to explain how easy it is to get back into this game every once in a while and give it a go, because it's so short, but it's also so good at what it does. It's not an easy game, but it's just hard enough that I still feel like I have a chance. It can be really tough at times, especially for me coming back to it after all these years. X1 might have the best soundtrack for a game per capita ever. I used to just listen to remixes of Mega Man X music constantly, all the time. And if you listen to any remix of any song from the first game, it'll probably be a banger. The Mega Man X collection was the easiest way to access this game back in the 2000s, and I originally played this on the GameCube version. It's hard to imagine playing this game on the GameCube with the GameCube controller, but I recently picked up this Super Nintendo styled controller that's based on original Hori design from back in the 2000s, and I thought it worked pretty well. I've always been an L dasher. I don't know if that's just because of the Mega Man Zero games, but every time I play the game, I reset dash to L. X1 is one of the best games ever made, but here's the thing. The series would continue for another 7 games. For the next 10 to 15 years, a Mega Man X game would come out alongside all the other Mega Man games that were coming out then, starting with X2 and 3 on the Super Nintendo, and then moving to the PlayStation 1 with X4 to 6. I really enjoy X4 and 5. X4 is probably my second favorite game in the series. Being able to play as X's partner Zero with his badass sword combat is so much more fun, in my opinion. It's so fun to just rip through a bunch of enemies as Zero. As much as I love playing as both the characters, Zero always came out on top.
Emergency, all Maverick hunters on call should assemble immediately.
But unfortunately, as time went on, the games just got worse and worse. And by the time you got to X7 on the PS2, it was considered one of the most notorious games in the entire Mega Man series. And so as much as I really like the Mega Man X games, it's hard to go back to the last 3.
They really made a mess.
X8 has its own redeeming qualities, but I just don't go back to it as much as 1 or 4. And it's really unfortunate though, because after these last few games, the series never came back. We had a few spin-offs like Mega Man Command Mission, or the remake Maverick Hunter X, which were both good in their own right. I'd honestly defend Command Mission, and I think as a GameCube RPG, it's a really underrated thing. Maybe at some point I'll cover Command Mission in full, just because I think it's such an interesting game. I mean, you've got like a cast of original characters and the full-on story mode, and it's a really interesting experience. And I think it goes to show how much the Mega Man X games actually had a story. The plot in these games was weirdly underdeveloped, considering how much ground there was to cover. I think if they remade the original X series and improved the delivery of the story, you could have some really good moments. But Zero's not allowed to die more than twice. We haven't had a Mega Man X game in over 15 years. If you don't count Mega Man Cross Dive or X Dive, which was a phone spin-off that later got ported to PC, we really haven't had any mainline games in a long time. We've had no mainline games in half of the series' lifespan. Things like the Mega Man X Legacy Collection have helped bring some popularity back to the series, but I think it's too late for things like collections to please the fans. If you ask me, what we need is either one of two things: a full-on remake of the first 2 or 3 games, or a Mega Man X9 in the style of Mega Man 11 that improves the features seen in things like X8. There were rumors for a Mega Man X9, but it seems like those things faded out.
Mega Man X, what took you so long?
To be honest, and this might be a hot take, I don't even really care if it's a 2D action game with 8 robot masters and 2 playable characters and an extra suit of armor. For me, the X series is just as much about the world. I honestly really just like these characters and want to see them do more stuff. I'd love to see the series take new directions. So if they change the gameplay a little bit to modernize things, I wouldn't be complaining. After Mega Man Zero and Battle Network got collections, we've gone through almost every Mega Man game through Legacy collections, so I think it's about time we start seeing an actual effort to make new Mega Man games. And X9 would be a great way to start. I feel like the series needs to find a way to attract new fans, but I'm really not sure how they could do it without changing too much of the formula. The X series, in my opinion, deserves so much more than to just retread old ground. So anyways, what does the X series mean to you, and what do you want to see from it in the future? I'm pretty open-minded about the whole thing, but I'd love to hear what you say in the comments. I'd love to talk about Command Mission at some point, and if that's something that maybe you'd be interested in seeing, subscribe and leave me a like. Anyways, thanks for watching.